magazine, newspaper. You can log on to your computer and click on the internet to enter the World Wide Web. And sometimes where the commercials pop up on the right-hand side, in the magazines, in the newspaper, on the web, you're going to see advertisements of some institution that's going to help to make you a better leader. All of them want to say what a great leader that they're going to make out of you or anyone who should choose to take their courses. Some people will say that leaders are born and not made. There may be some truth to that, but even leaders have had to be schooled in how to become better leaders. Some of them may be born with that kind of leadership. Some of you are born with that kind, were born with that kind of leadership. But you've had to study, you've learned how to sharpen those skills through education. Moses got his education through different facets in life. Most of you know the story of Moses, and time would not permit for us to tell all about his life, but you know that at the time of his birth, that in order to protect him, that his mom put him in a basket and put him in the Nile, that he was found by Pharaoh's daughter, adopted as her son, and there he began prep school. Pharaoh's prep school. He began to learn leadership, began to learn how to lead. Maybe not always from the best, but as we talked about last week, as we looked at Jacob, we can sometimes learn from not always the best of teachers. And so Moses began to learn from Pharaoh something about leadership. And so I call that Pharaoh's prep school. As Moses spent time there in the palace and watching and learning. And so education and learning and from others never hurt anyone. I remember after my call to ministry and talking about going to college and then to seminary, a lot of well-meaning people told me, "Oh, do you really have to go to seminary? They'll ruin you down there." Of course, by the time at the time that I had entered seminary at Emory was just a few years beyond the professor that had been at Emory. Those of you who were around back in the 70s may recall, and I don't even recall his name, that had said something about God being dead, and the media and the papers picked up on it. And so they were afraid that if I went to seminary at Emory University, that I was going to be taking these professors who proclaimed that God was dead. What they didn't say to me is that the professor was fired. Secondly, is he did not teach in the seminary. He taught at Emory in the college, and was not even in the seminary. But because it was at Emory, because he was a professor at Emory, then all the professors at Emory taught the same thing: God is dead. That's not what they taught. That's what the people had in their minds. Be careful with the seminary. They'll ruin you down there. You know, in the seminary, I found out about some people that I knew a little bit about and learned a little bit more from people like Augustine, John Calvin, Martin Luther, John and Charles Wesley, men who have helped shape the church and Christendom throughout the world. Men whose faith helped to bring about faith in others, who took a stand, even when their stand may not have been the most popular. And so we learn. We learn from other people. Moses learned from Pharaoh, started prep school there. But then Moses went to the University of the Desert. For 40 years, Moses tried to set the people free from slavery, wandered around the desert. Some people say that the desert is a good place to get an education, whether it be physical or whether it be something more spiritual and in our own minds. Those places of hard knocks, if you will. Moses wandered around trying to find the freedom for the people, and the people screaming at him and being disappointed in him. And Moses had that time and time again to go to God and to plead to God for their deliverance. Moses all the